I'm Doug, son of God, family man, and friend. I exist to love and serve my wife and family and to bring men and women into true freedom in Jesus Christ. I do this by being present to everyone I encounter, or at least attempting to be, working with leaders to produce men who are bold and daring followers of Jesus Christ, and working with my wife to help couples turn their homes into grace places. You look at this picture here, and you look at coals. They were created for one purpose: to be consumed. And when that coal rolls off to the side, it ends up half-baked and cold. You and I are like those coals. And when I roll off to the side and I'm not touching other people's lives or allowing other people's lives to touch mine, I too grow half-baked and I'm not fulfilling my purpose. I can only fulfill my purpose in my life when I'm allowing others to touch my life and touching the lives of others and allowing myself to be, along with others, consumed by the love of God so that I share it. Loneliness is an epidemic these days, but the percentage of men with at least 6 close friends fell by half since 1990, from 55% to 27%. Recent studies showed that the percentage of men without any close friends jumped from 3% to 15%, a 5-fold increase. This is critical, guys. And when we think of friendship among men, we tend to think of how women do friendship. Men and women do friendship differently. And I would say that women tend to do friendship a little bit more eye to eye. We guys, a lot of the times, are more shoulder to shoulder. My father took about 6 years, had cancer for about 6 years before he finally died from it. And I remember my mother telling me, "I'm so concerned about your dad because he doesn't have friends like I do." Well, the typical thing was for mom and dad to go to the doctor and get the next stage of bad news. And they would come home and mom would go to the telephone and mom and dad would go to his chair in the corner of the room. And mom would be on the phone to all of us and to her friends and others talking about the latest bad news that dad had while dad was contemplating in that chair. And I'll never forget the day that I visited dad in the hospital and his best friend, Bud, came to see him. Buddy was also his cousin. Buddy was also a pastor. But it was his best friend that came to see him that day. And they talked about everything but cancer and dying. They talked about accidents they had been in, trouble they had been in, time they had served in Korea, and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'll never forget when Bud gets up to leave and he walks across the room and he stands in the door and he turns around and these two men simply looked at each other for the longest time. And I felt almost embarrassed to be there because it was an intimate moment among these two men that vitally with their friendship loved one another. And I went home and I told my mom, "You were right. Does not have friends like you because we do friends differently." Because what I saw today, Mom, was his best friend. There's a book out that came out a few years ago called The Buddy System by Jeffrey Grief. Very good book. I encourage you to take a look at it. And in this book, he talks about the 4 kinds of friends that we have. And I'll start at the bottom. The rust friends. Some of us here are old enough to have really rusty friends. You know, I'm 71 years old. Those are the friends that you can reconnect with even after many years of not seeing each other, and you just pick up where you left off. Or maybe you've kept in touch over the years through all of the time, but it's just always there. Last week, I was back in my hometown of Moorhead, Minnesota. On the way to my brother's house, I saw my friend sitting out on the porch that I hadn't seen for decades. Just stopped and sat next to them on the porch, and we talked like we had never been apart. Rust friends. Rust friends. And then he talks about just friends. Well, those are the guys I work with, you know? Those are the guys that we go to church with. Those are our neighbors. Casual acquaintances, they're part of our network, maybe not critical, but we miss them or we remember their faces, we remember their names. They're just friends, casual. And then there's to Jesus, that might have been, to Jesus, that might have been the multitudes, or that might have been the 72 that he was sending out, the larger crowds. And then Jeffrey Grief talks about the trust friends. Now we're getting close. These are the friends that are like family. These are the people that we have some shared history and experience with. These are the people, I think, in John 15, where Jesus says, "You're not my servants, you're my friends." Imagine being called Jesus' friend. He says, "You're not my servants." And these are the guys that are like family to us. And it's a smaller group than the just friends. See, these are the guys that are going to know something about you. I used to ask, if you were to, and more today, I realize that people are being cremated, but I used to tell guys that it takes 6 guys to carry you when you leave this world. It takes at least 6 guys to carry you while you're here. Who are your 6 guys? Who are the 6 guys that you would say carry you in this world? You know, when we moved out here 3 years ago, I began working with Project 12. If you go to project12.net, one word, project12.net, and there's a series that we've been writing there called Lifelines. It's based on the Serendipity Bible. You'll see in a minute. And I'm working with 19 writers and editors, and I thought after we'd been doing some work, I need to test this out a little bit among somebody. And I'd moved out here, and I'd been making some contacts with guys in other churches about men's ministry. Well, maybe some of them would be willing to test this out with me. And so we got Covenant, Charismatic, Episcopal, Lutheran, bunch of guys together, and we did 6 sessions, and it went pretty well, and we got to know each other. And some of the things we began to hear things like, I haven't shared this with anyone ever before, and we'd hear stuff, and we'd pray for each other, and we got to love each other. And so at the end of 6 sessions, I said, okay, guys, thanks a lot for helping me out testing this. It seems to work. Doug, we don't want to stop. And so that has gone, guys, from virtual, where it started, to a church library, to the brewery where we meet every week at 4 o'clock, over beers, and it generally ends with prayer in the brewery. And the conversation is some of the most real that you could ever imagine. And I got to tell you, when I had my heart attack last January, these guys were among the first to be contacted and among the first to respond and pray for me and share their love with me. It's like family. Who are those 6 guys? Who are that handful of guys in your life? And then we go to now there's the must friend. Who is that friend that you could call at any time of the day or night and say, I need help? I used to ask this question, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you need help, who do you call? My wife. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're not with your wife and you're in trouble. Who do you call? My pastor. Well, pastor doesn't count. And it's amazing, many men, maybe most men, can't give you an answer on that. And we need to, all of us need that answer. I'm blessed. I've had those guys, a couple of you that are here today, that if I ever needed anything, even in the middle of the night, I would know who to call. And I'm here today because of 1 or 2 guys like that in my life. Who is that guy that's in your life? For Jesus, that was Peter, James, and John. Now, were they always dependable? Oh, yeah. He calls them away. I'm going to be praying. You guys stay here. Oh, they fall asleep. No, they weren't always dependable, but they were his guys, and especially Peter. Well, if Jesus needed friends, if Jesus needed trust friends and must friends, I guess we do too, because they make life what it is for us. Now, when we talk about ministry with men, and how do we do it with different people? Okay, there's different things to do. Okay, if we're zeroing on just friends, and this is valid. You have socials, you have meals, you have work projects, you have Bible studies, you have fun retreats. That's okay. It's a way to connect with and reach people. Then again, you take it a step further. You want to talk about trust friends and developing those relationships in places that are safe to develop them. Then you talk about small groups, Bible study, topical stuff, active and adventure, things that are going to challenge guys. If you want to talk about ministry that will really develop must friends, that's where you look at things like high adventure and places that are safe and brave places and spaces, as I say. Places that are incredibly safe, and we can develop that with each other. Places that are so safe that we're able to share and hear those things like, I haven't said this to anyone before, but I've always wondered about this, or I've always worried about this, or I did this 20 years ago and I've never forgiven myself for it. Those kinds of conversations. Opportunities. I want to thank Logan because he really introduced my speech very well. Because you're exactly right. No matter what age we are, it's about investing in each other, and it's about being inquisitive, and it's about being curious about each other. And it's not about, hey, can I get you to come to my men's breakfast? Or, hey, can I get you to sit in the pew next to me? No, it's about, can I get engaged in a relationship with you? Several years ago, when we had young men working with us, one of those young men came up with this, the I Go model, and it's in a book called Coming of Age. But he said to us, first of all, identify me. Even, give me some signal that you even know I exist, that you see me. And especially for those few that might be in church. I mean, that generally aren't in church, but let me know that I'm seen. Acknowledge me. Secondly, invite me. And don't invite me necessarily to your men's breakfast or to your church function or whatever, but invite me into relationship. Engage in conversation with me. Take some time. Invest and invite and invest. Take some time. Develop an ongoing relationship. Pour some time into him. And guys, this isn't only about young men, but it's about friends of any age. That's what it takes. And we have all the time churches asking us, well, how do we get young men? And what we tell them is, don't program. Don't program, but befriend. And it's one-on-one. Come alongside of, spend time with, and be willing to spend time with young men where they want to spend time. And be with them. And be open to where the conversations might take you. There's a man, I don't know how many of you have ever had a chance to meet your hero. I've had that opportunity a couple of times, and this is one of them. And those of you who have been around the church very much know that if you've had anything to do with small group ministry in the last 50 or 60 years, this guy has been a part of it, more than likely, because he's a major player in the role of small group ministry. And Lyman Coleman, first of all, among other things, was the general editor of the Serendipity Bible for Groups. 20,000 questions for small groups in there. Although I haven't counted them, but 20. And we took that and made that the Master Builder's Bible for Men. We put our cover on it, and we put on the front part of it, here's how you do men's ministry. That's Lyman's work. And it was several years ago, on Good Friday, it happened to be, I was at his home for lunch, and he told me that he had had a train wreck in his life. This is my hero. This is my hero. His wife had died from a missed diagnosis. His son had died in an accident about the same time. And he was now retiring out of his publishing work with Serendipity. He went into major depression. And he told me about a retreat that he went to, not a spiritual retreat. Well, it was spiritual, but not necessarily Christian. But a men's retreat. And he said, I went to this retreat. A pastor friend of mine dragged me there. And he said, Doug, I'm a pastor. And I've never heard so many four-letter words in all my life. But this might have been the closest thing to what I imagined the church should be. And he told me about his experience and how it had helped him come out of that deep depression and the alienation that he had been experiencing. And I said to him, Lyman, what I'd like you to do is baptize this. You know how to do it. You had this experience. Make this Christian, and you know how to do it. And then, oh, by the way, let Lutheran men be your guinea pigs. And so we started the 1 Year to Live retreat several years ago. And we've had hundreds of men go through this retreat now ever since. And it's been the most life-changing retreat, the most life-changing experience that I have ever seen for me and for men. I think I've done the weekend about 20 times. And I've benefited every time. I thought, okay, well, I'm one of the leaders, and then, but every single time I've been through this retreat, I have benefited, and I've come home a better man. This is the retreat, the experience that we've had, where we've had families thank us for the man that came home, because they saw such a difference in his life, and as a result, a difference in their lives. This is the opportunity to come together with other men and bare your soul as you never have before, and come away a stronger man. And so this fall at Black Lake Bible Camp, there's some pictures of the camp. We're going to be doing the 1 Year to Live retreat, October 6th through 8th, and I hope that you will really consider coming. We'll be passing out some brochures, and you don't want to be that coal that's off to the side and cold. This is what you were created to be burning, to be alive, to be together with others, and to be making a difference in the world.
1 year to live. What can I say? The 1 year to live men's retreat has changed my life. It's changed my life for the better. It's changed my life in ways that I could never imagine. My wife has seen the difference. My children have seen the difference. I'm a pastor, and my church has seen the difference. Before attending the 1 year to live men's retreat, I suffered from bouts of depression. I suffered from awkwardness. I suffered from loneliness that I didn't even know existed in my life. I was that little kid still waiting for his father to come and pick him up, but never showed. 1 year to live helped me to leave some things, some old things behind and start anew. It gave me a sense of freshness, a renewing. I thank my counselors, my new brothers, my new brethren, my new family for allowing me to pour out and pouring into me. The 1 year to live men's retreat is awesome. And I implore anybody who has the opportunity, any men who's looking just to add some freshness into their life, some newness into their lives, to take the opportunity. I would love to be your brother. I would love to allow you to pour out just as I did. I'm a new man for it today. 1 year to live. It's given me purpose, not only for that 1 year, that next year, but for my life. I look forward to living my life now. I thank you. You've done wonders for me. 1 year to live.
Remember, identify, invite, and invest. Amen.